Vito was first and foremost an activist.
The gay people in Middle America are certainly ready for it, and if the straight people aren't, then they should get to know who their neighbors are.
If you're going to talk about the gay rights movement, you're going to talk about Vito.
Hi, I'm Peter Canet here with xtra.ca. I'm here with Jeffrey Shores from the documentary Vito.
When I got involved in the gay movement, I was fighting for the generations that are going to come after me, so that young gay people who are 14 and 15 won't have to grow up the way we did.
These people are debating whether or not you have the right to live, and you're not part of the discussion.
So how about you tell us about Vito?
Vito is a documentary about Vito Russo, and Vito Russo was a beloved gay activist and film historian. He's probably best known as the author of The Celluloid Closet, which was the first book to catalog how gay and lesbian people were represented in Hollywood movies, not always in very pretty ways. But he was always an activist, and he came of age right after Stonewall, and his activism continued into the 1980s when he became one of the founding members of GLAAD, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, and also ACT UP, the AIDS coalition to unleash power.
And Vito was right in the middle from the beginning. He was participating if there were a demonstration, he was there.
No violence, no violence, no violence, no violence, no violence, no violence.
Hang in there, Charlie!
Vito was on all those ACT UP marches. Vito was roiling people up.
None of us who are here today are going to go away. None of us who are here today are going to shut up.
So a lot of people probably think of Vito Russo as the writer of The Celluloid Closet, but clearly he was much more than that, as your film makes clear. So maybe in your own words, just talk a little bit about Vito Russo and sort of his legacy.
Well, when I first heard about Vito, it was through the book The Celluloid Closet. When I was coming out, it was the early 90s, and he had just passed away. And that was around the time I connected with his book. And when I read it, it kind of opened up a whole new world of movies I had heard of, but he encouraged us to look at them in a new way and look for hidden meanings and sort of the subtextual portrayals of gay and lesbian characters in these movies. So I went through the book. I tried to see everything he ever talked about. And then when I heard that the book was being made into a documentary by Rob Epstein and Jeffrey Friedman, I jumped at the chance to try to work on that. So I moved out to San Francisco and got to work on the Celluloid Closet documentary. And that's when I got to know Vito the activist. I didn't really know much about his work as an activist until I had access to all of his original research materials and all of the interviews that Rob and Jeffrey did with Vito before he passed away. And it was then that I learned about his activism in the late 1960s and early 70s through the Gay Activist Alliance in New York City. And that's when Vito kind of combined his love of movies with his passion for the gay liberation movement by setting up these film nights at the headquarters of the Gay Activist Alliance in New York, the Firehouse, where he would show all kinds of movies to a predominantly gay and lesbian audience. And he was one of the first people, if not the first, to get all these gay people in a room together to watch movies.
And while at the museum, Vito started making these discoveries of representation of gay characters in these very early movies.
He was looking at films, I think, constantly, looking for those kind of gay pieces and gay bits in kind of movies from the beginning.
He started just coming across these images and recognizing his experience and being blown away by it.
If you look at the history of this subject, you find that gay characters have existed on film since the turn of the century. Thomas Edison's 1895 piece of film is Two Men Dancing a Waltz. So a component of who gay people are has existed since the beginning of this art form.
And if Vito were alive today, what do you think he would be doing?
Well, I don't want to speak for Vito, but he would be 66, about 66 today, and he would probably be writing, teaching, talking, agitating out there in the streets. I mean, I don't think he ever would have slowed down. I mean, it's really bittersweet for me because he died in 1990, and that was just before a lot of the drugs came along that prolonged the lives of people with AIDS. I mean, if he had stuck around a little bit longer, who knows? He very well could still be with us today.
Living with AIDS is like living through a war which is happening only for those people who happen to be in the trenches. Every time a shell explodes, you look around and you discover that you've lost more of your friends. But nobody else notices.
So I just want to thank Jeffrey for talking with us today, and I look forward to your future work.
Pleasure to be here.
He took a stand. He is our gay hero.